Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India NewsHour, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lynn. Namaskar. Coming up in the next hour. 7 multi-party delegations briefed on Operation Sindoor to present India's stance across 32 countries in a major diplomatic push. India provides crucial food aid to 5,000 Afghan families expelled from Pakistan. Germany urges US to intensify pressure on Russia as EU imposes 17th round of sanctions amid stalled ceasefire talks. World Health Assembly adopts historic pandemic agreement after 3 years of negotiations. India is launching a diplomatic offensive in the wake of the Pahalgam terror attack that claimed 26 innocent lives. 7 multi-party delegations will engage with key global players, sending a resounding message of national unity against terrorism. The Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri briefed the MPs and leaders on Tuesday, setting the stage for India's determined push to solidify its global stance. The world is watching and India is ready with the next stage of Operation Sindoor.
One mission, one message, one Bharat. All party delegates are all set to embark on a journey to key international partner nations under Operation Sindoor, reflecting India's collective resolve against terrorism. Briefing for these delegates was held on Tuesday in New Delhi ahead of their planned visit.
पाकिस्तान का जो स्टेट है और पाकिस्तान की जो आर्मी है, दोनों का इंटेलिजेंस है इसमें। इन टेररिस्ट को ये प्रॉक्सी वार की तरह इंडिया के साथ किया हुआ है। ये घटना के पीछे भी जाएंगे, ये भी बात आई तो 40 साल से ये इंडिया के ऊपर कर रहे हैं। अब जो प्रधानमंत्री जी ने कहा है न्यू नॉर्मल, अब होता है ना, अब बस हो गया। अब जो है इसके बाद हम लोग आपके डिजाइन को समझते हैं, अब अंदर जाकर के हिट करेंगे।
7 all-party delegations are set to visit key partner countries, including members of the UN Security Council. The all-party delegations will project India's national consensus and resolute approach to combating terrorism in all forms and manifestations. They will carry forth to the world the country's strong message of zero tolerance against terrorism. Overall, 59 delegates are expected to visit 32 countries. Group 1 will be led by BJP leader Baijant J. Panda. BJP leader Ravi Prasad will lead Group 2. JDU leader Sanjay Jha will be the leader of Group 3. Shiv Sena Shrikant Shinde will be leading Group 4. Congress Shashi Tharoor will be head of Group 5. DMK MP Kanimoyi Karunanidhi will be leading Group 6. And NCP Sharad Pawar's leader Supriya Sule will be heading Group 7. India has showcased its firm resolve to strictly deal with terror in the aftermath of the Pahalgam terror attack, in which 26 civilians were killed. During Operation Sindoor, Pakistani posts in terrorist camps across the line of control were destroyed by the Indian Army.
Poonch Brigade was engaged in intense and continuous operations during Operation Sindoor. Poonch Brigade was not a part but the heart of Operation Sindoor. The army struck with unmatched precision and purpose. 6 of the 9 critical terrorist targets struck were opposite Poonch, Rajouri and Akhnur, and these were neutralized effectively that night.
Also on Tuesday, following the success of Operation Sindoor, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh landed at Lucknow Airport in Uttar Pradesh.
हमारी भारतीय सेनाओं ने एक कुशल डॉक्टर और सर्जन की तरह काम किया है। जैसे एक कुशल सर्जन जहां बीमारी की जड़ मौजूद होती है वहीं अपने औजारों का इस्तेमाल करता है, वैसे ही भारतीय सेनाओं ने भी बड़ी सटीकता के साथ आतंकवाद की जड़ों पर अपने हथियारों का इस्तेमाल किया है।
He received a rousing reception. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, who is currently on an official visit to the Netherlands, met the Prime Minister of the Netherlands, Dick Schoof, in The Hague. And following this meeting, Dr. Jaishankar shared a post on X and said delighted to call on the Prime Minister Dick Schoof today at The Hague. Conveyed the warm regards of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and thanked him for the Netherlands' firm and resolute stance against terrorism, appreciate his commitment to taking the India-Netherlands partnership to newer heights, assured that our teams will work hard to achieve these goals. Earlier, the EAM, Jaishankar, also interacted with representatives of the Indian community in the Netherlands. While interacting with the Indian diaspora, Dr. Jaishankar highlighted the contribution of the community in building a stronger relationship between India and the Netherlands. Dr. Jaishankar met the Defence Minister Ruben Breckemans in The Hague, discussing security challenges and the benefits of a bilateral defence partnership during his European visit. Dr. Jaishankar thanked his counterpart Casper Veldkamp for condemning the Pahalgam terror attack and supporting zero tolerance on terrorism. And they discussed strengthening bilateral ties, EU engagement and global multipolarity. Later, the External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar will be on official visits to Denmark and Germany. Now, the 8th meeting of the India-US Joint Working Group on Aircraft Carrier Technology, a cooperation, it was organized in India from May 13 to 16. A 6-member US delegation led by Rear Admiral K.C. Morton visited the defense sites in Delhi and Goa, and they highlighted the Joint Working Group's decade of progress and its contributions to aircraft carrier information exchange. India has provided crucial food aid to Afghan families expelled from Pakistan, delivering essential items to those most in need. India has provided humanitarian aid for 5,000 Afghan families expelled from Pakistan, delivering 11 essential food items to those in dire need. The Taliban's Ministry of Refugees and Repatriation confirmed the assistance with Minister Abdul Kabir. He expressed gratitude to India for its support amid worsening hardships. Now, Pakistan has intensified mass deportations of Afghan refugees and migrants, with the United Nations reporting over 19,500 deportations in April alone. As displacements surge, now India's aid underscores its commitment to humanitarian relief in the region. The Competition Commission of India is commemorating 16 years since its inception, reaffirming its dedication to promoting fair and competitive market practices in the country. The event brings together key stakeholders from industry. The Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman highlighted the government's vision for the Competition Commission of India's future role.
The ability of the Commission to strike a balance between the regulatory vigilance and a pro-growth mindset will be integral to building a resilient, equitable and innovation-driven economic framework in India as it aspires to become Vikasit Bharat.
Minister Sitharaman also praised the Competition Commission of India for fostering innovation, safeguarding consumer interests and playing a significant role in driving India's economic growth.
As India integrates further with the global value chains and digital ecosystems, maintaining open and contestable markets will be crucial to our competitiveness. The Competition Commission of India, through its unique mandate and cross-sectoral role, will be a key enabler in this journey, whether it is facilitating market access for MSMEs, addressing barriers that impede fair competition, promoting digital inclusion, or ensuring that the consumers benefit from better choices, lower prices and improved quality. Congratulations to the Commission.
Well, the Union Minister Jitendra Singh said that the Indian economy will be driven by startups as he addressed the CSIR Startup Conclave 2025 in Mumbai. The Minister of State for Science and Technology added that people did not know about startups when Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched the Startup India initiative in 2016. But today, the country has 145,000 registered startups. He also urged people to think about how they can create value addition to the startup economy.
और आज 10 वर्षों में हम फ्रेजाइल 5 इकोनॉमी से टॉप 5 हो गए। हमारा ग्लोबल इनोवेशन इंडेक्स 81 था, आज 39 हो गया। 49% ऑफ आवर स्टार्टअप्स टुडे, ये मैं परसों ही स्टैटिस्टिक्स देख रहा था, कम फ्रॉम टियर 2 and टियर 3 cities.
Now, India has taken the path of rapid development in Amrit Kal under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The Prime Minister will virtually inaugurate 100 plus railway stations nationwide on the 22nd of May, including 5 in Chhattisgarh: Ambikapur, Dongargarh, Banu Pratappur, Bhilai 3 and Urkura. Now, ahead of this event, Saharanpur station has been transformed under the Amrit Bharat Yojana, earning praise from locals for its development. Well, Hyderabad residents have expressed their happiness over the development of the Begumpet railway station under the Amrit Bharat station scheme. Now, this station was rebuilt to a modern transit hub with advanced passenger amenities reflecting Telangana's rich heritage. The revamped station, handling around 100 trains daily, is set to be virtually inaugurated by Prime Minister Narendra Modi on May 22 as part of the inauguration of 103 Amrit Bharat stations across India.
Begumpet station is selected as a part of Amrit Bharat station scheme. On account of Amrit Bharat station scheme, improvised international facilities have been provided for Begumpet for the passengers like massive departure halls, number of booking counters, ATVMs. Special facilities have also been provided for the Divyangjans regarding the parking, their seating areas, toilets, and international level facilities have been arranged at our station so that passenger would feel elated when they arrive at a station.
This is a very proud moment for us, for which there are two aspects for which we can be very happy and very proud. One being the whole Begumpet station is a total women's station. Whatever aspect of working condition here, it is being manned by only women staff. It is either booking or ticket checking, the security, or each and every department is being manned by all women staff. Further, this station has been redeveloped with all the basic and advanced facilities to facilitate the passenger to have a very happy and an airport experience when they come and leave the Begumpet railway station.
Well, the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, TRAI, celebrated World Telecom and Information Society Day on Tuesday at its headquarters in New Delhi. This year's celebration focused on the globally relevant theme, universal and meaningful connectivity, aligning with TRAI's mission to ensure inclusive, equitable and sustainable access to communication services for all. India's Communication Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia participated in the event, where he reiterated that connectivity gains true meaning only when it transforms lives, and it has gained momentum on the ground in India. Now, still to come here on DD India NewsHour. Negotiations in Doha for a ceasefire and hostage deal between Israel and Hamas stall. Germany agrees, in principle, to push its defense budget to 5% of GDP. $22 billion in foreign investment at the Choose France conference.
issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Mark Lynn. Our next story. Germany is still counting on the United States to pile more pressure on Russia for an immediate ceasefire in its conflict with Ukraine. However, despite a 2-hour-long phone call between the US President Donald Trump and the Russian President Vladimir Putin, Russia has not agreed to a timeline for a ceasefire. The EU has imposed a fresh round of sanctions on Russia, its 17th such set of restrictions to pressure Russia into accepting a ceasefire with Ukraine. Let's look at this report.
Russia and Ukraine's recent direct peace talks on Monday made little progress. US President Donald Trump spoke with Russia's Vladimir Putin for over 2 hours on the phone, and while this was seen as a positive move, Russia did not specify a timeline for negotiations. Trump believes both Russia and Ukraine want to end the over 3-year-old conflict, but said that only they can sort it out through talks.
I believe Putin wants to do it. Now, if I thought Putin didn't want, I mean, that's what I do. My whole life is like deals, one big deal. And if I thought that President Putin did not want to get this over with, I wouldn't even be talking about it.
Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has accused Russia of stalling negotiations. Germany and the EU too have expressed skepticism, stating that Russia is merely playing for time rather than genuinely seeking peace.
It takes two to want peace, it only takes one to want war, and Russia clearly wants war, whereas Ukraine wants peace. So in order to make Russia want peace, also we need to put more pressure on Russia.
The EU has just approved its 17th package of sanctions against Russia, focusing on economic and individual restrictions. Nearly 200 vessels accused of illegal oil transport are blacklisted. Russian officials and companies tied to the conflict face sanctions. The EU is targeting cyber attacks, sabotage, and rights violations. Restrictions aim to reduce Russia's oil export revenue. The US sees this as a European issue, but acknowledges its role due to financial aid to Ukraine. Consequently, President Trump considers the US a stakeholder and is optimistic about Ukraine's commitment to peace.
Look, he's a strong person. Zelensky, a strong guy, and he's not the easiest person to deal with. But I think that he wants to stop.
NATO believes that the US is truly invested in positive peace efforts.
But clearly the American administration is very much involved, closely coordinating with European colleagues, and of course Ukraine, and I think that is very positive.
Talks continue, but the territorial disputes and ceasefire terms remain obstacles. The Vatican was suggested as a neutral venue, but Russia has set no deadline. US President Trump opposes further sanctions, fearing escalation, while the EU has already imposed new sanctions and tightened loopholes. Diplomatic efforts are likely to intensify in the coming days. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, meanwhile, the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio, he has insisted on Tuesday that President Trump had offered no concessions to Russia as he rejected criticism over the administration's Ukraine policy at a Senate hearing. Our next story, Germany has expressed willingness to heed the call from the US President Donald Trump for increased defense expenditure among NATO member states. Following a meeting with his US counterpart at NATO Foreign Ministers meeting, a gathering in Turkey, the German Foreign Minister Johann Wadfull stated that Berlin is prepared to follow the demand and raise its military spending. Currently, in fact, NATO members are committed to spending at least 2% of their GDP on defense. However, Wadfull, he has indicated that Germany acknowledges in principle the push to increase that figure to 5%. Wadful's comments came a day after the German Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, announced that he wanted to transform the German army as the strongest conventional army in Europe. The French President Emmanuel Macron hailed a record $22 billion in foreign investment during the Choose France conference at the Palace of Versailles on Monday. Now, this surpasses last year's 15 billion euros, and it solidifies France's position as Europe's top destination for foreign direct investment, according to an EY ranking, an Ernst & Young ranking. Now, around 50 new projects across sectors like fintech, cruise ships, and data centers were revealed. Macron credited his reforms since 2017 for simplifying bureaucracy and boosting France's appeal.
20 billion were invested, new investments were announced, and 20 billion of AI investment as a follow-up of the summit in February. So it's a very great addition, and I want clearly to thank all those who decided to invest in our country. This is the result of a collective work during the past 8 years.
The British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said on Tuesday that Britain is back on the world stage following new trade agreements with the EU, US and India. The UK and EU signed a deal on Monday that will significantly reduce paperwork and border checks on plant and animal products, easing trade while upholding food standards. However, the agreement has drawn sharp criticism over its fishing terms. Now, under this deal, the UK and EU vessels will retain access to each other's waters for the next 12 years.
The principles we took into the negotiations are clear and simple. Does it drive down bills? Does it drive up jobs? Does it strengthen our borders? And in each case, the answer is resoundingly yes. These deals release us from the tired arguments of the past and, as an independent sovereign nation, allow us to seize the opportunities of the future. A clear message sent across the globe that Britain is back on the world stage. Once again, backing British business.
Well, the United States' Department of Health and Human Services has announced the termination of approximately $60 million in federal grants to Harvard University, further intensifying tensions between the Ivy League institution and President Donald Trump's administration. The decision comes amid ongoing disputes over allegations of anti-Semitism and debates over the limits of academic freedom. Now, in a statement posted on the social media platform X, the department called Harvard's continued failure to address anti-Semitic harassment and race discrimination as the primary reason for revoking multiple multi-year grant awards. As aid trickles slowly into Gaza, hopes for peace remain distant amid a deepening humanitarian crisis. Ceasefire talks in Doha have stalled, with Qatar citing Israel's expanding offensive as a major obstacle. Meanwhile, Israel has responded to warnings from Western leaders over its military actions, blaming France for advancing its two-state solution initiative to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. As aid trickles slowly into Gaza amidst the raging conflict, peace in the region seems to be far from a reality. As the ongoing international efforts to mediate peace in the Israel-Hamas conflict continue, Qatar's Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman Al Thani said on Tuesday that negotiations in Doha for a ceasefire and hostage deal have stalled due to fundamental differences between the two sides. He pointed out that Israel's expanding military offensive in Gaza has hampered progress towards peace.
The rounds of negotiations that took place in Doha in the past couple of weeks unfortunately didn't lead us anywhere yet, because there is a fundamental gap between the two parties.
Israeli media reported on Monday that indirect negotiations in the Qatari capital Doha to reach a Gaza ceasefire and prisoner swap deal have failed to make progress. and that Israel is considering recalling its negotiating delegation from Qatar unless there is an exceptional development in the negotiations. The United Nations said it has received permission from Israel for about 100 more emergency aid trucks to enter Gaza, though the first supplies to have entered in weeks remained under Israeli control.
We have requested and received approval of more trucks to enter today. Many more than were approved yesterday. And we expect, of course, with that approval, many of them, hopefully all of them, to cross today to a point where they can be picked up and get further into the Gaza Strip for distribution.
Earlier, Israel had announced it would now allow the entry of a limited amount of food to prevent a hunger crisis from developing in Gaza, confirming that 5 UN trucks carrying supplies, including baby food, were allowed through the Kerem Shalom crossing. Meanwhile, in a rare and strongly worded statement, the leaders of Britain, Canada, and France on Monday threatened actions against Israel if it did not stop renewed military offensive in Gaza and lift aid restrictions. Israel, however, responded to the joint statement rejecting their demands and blaming France for pushing its initiative of a two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Rabindra Chauhan's report for DD India. The U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said on Tuesday that the Syrian Transitional Authority may be weeks away from potential collapse and full-scale civil war. Rubio defended U.S. President Donald Trump's decision to lift Syrian sanctions and to engage with the Damascus government.
It is our assessment that, frankly, the Transitional Authority, given the challenges they're facing, are maybe weeks, not many months, away from potential collapse and a full-scale civil war of epic proportions, basically the country splitting up.
Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has criticized U.S. demands in nuclear negotiations as excessive and outrageous, casting doubts on the prospects of reaching a deal. Now, the talks that the U.S. and Iran, these talks remain uncertain amid a standoff over the uranium enrichment, which Iran insists is for peaceful purposes. Despite reports that a fifth round of negotiations could take place in Rome, no breakthrough is in sight. The Sudanese army said on Tuesday that it had completely pushed its rival paramilitaries out of Khartoum state, nearly 2 months after it regained control of the capital center. The war since April 2023 has pitted the army headed by Sudan's de facto leader Abdel Fattah Burhan against the RSF under his former deputy Mohamed Daglo. And in fact, in recent weeks, the RSF has staged multiple drone attacks on areas around the country, including Port Sudan on the Red Sea coast. The fighting comes as both the army and the RSF are attempting to establish their own governments. Some news snippets now from around the world. And the French authorities have launched a nationwide hunt for thousands of tiny Chinese-made telephones used by convicts to continue criminal activities from inside prison. The telephones, no bigger than a cigarette lighter, are almost entirely plastic and have a reputation for being virtually invisible to metal detectors. 13 NATO countries took part in countermeasures exercise in the Baltic Sea. This is to locate and neutralize unexploded mines from both World War I and World War II. During the operation, the team found 4 unexploded historical ordnances, 3 mines and 1 torpedo. The operation also focused on present-day dangers and protecting underwater infrastructure from potential threats in the region. Britain's King Charles and Queen Camilla visited Canada House on Tuesday to mark the 100th anniversary of the country's embassy in London. Charles is due to attend Canada's state opening of Parliament on May 27, marking the first time a British monarch has attended the event in Ottawa since 1977. Still to come here on DD India NewsHour, we'll be getting expert opinion on the potential for peace between Russia and Ukraine.
Welcome to Jaipur.
You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Mark Lynn. Here's a recap of our main stories. 7 multi-party delegations briefed on Operation Sindoor. They are to present India's stance across 32 countries in a major diplomatic push. India provides crucial food aid to 5,000 Afghan families expelled from Pakistan. Germany urges US to intensify pressure on Russia as EU imposes a 17th round of sanctions amid stalled ceasefire talks. World Health Assembly adopts a historic pandemic agreement after 3 years of negotiations. And Ambassador Sanjay Panda, former senior diplomat, is with us in the studio to discuss the potential for Russia-Ukraine peace. Thank you very much, sir, for being with us. Now, given the battlefield realities, is Russia really keen on a ceasefire this time?
We are still a long way off from the ceasefire. There's been a lot of effort, and Trump is progressively getting restless and frustrated. That is because of a poll promise. He said that even before I get into White House, and if not before, shortly thereafter, we will have a ceasefire, and I'll
on
ensure
day one,
that.
he said.
Yes, that's right. So there's been no dearth of effort on the part of Trump, and this is the first time since Russia invaded Ukraine in February 22. This is the first time that Russia at least says, okay, let's give peace a chance. But there are several conditionalities which Russia has not spelt out. But one statement which says that we'll have to ensure and find out what the root cause is and address that before we go for a temporary ceasefire.
Indeed. But do you see any other countries besides the US as potential mediators? Because, you know, Russia is wary of the Western mediators. And of course, Ukraine is wary of China. And Rubio, now he says that the US has given no concessions to Russia. So what do you think? I mean, are there any other countries that can help mediate?
Look, Mark, yesterday there were frantic telephone calls, early hours of today actually. Trump spoke to Putin and he says it's 2 hours, 2 hours of telephonic call.
Well, the Russians have said it was 2 hours too.
The Russians also say it's 2 hours. Okay, I didn't know what the conversation, how it could last for 2 hours. But after that, he had a short, brief conversation with Zelensky, and then with the European leaders, I mean, the German Chancellor and Finnish President, and EU and UK for that matter. They said that we'll be helping Ukraine reach a ceasefire with Russia, and will be on the side of US. But Russia does not like the Europeans to come into the play. However, it's comfortable with US there. But also Russia is biding for time, and that's what also Zelensky accuses.
Right. So to what extent will this 17th package of EU sanctions have on, shaping the conversation in a sense?
You see, the sanctions, even now, today actually, there has been little more which has been added. EU has added 200 more sanctions
That's right. That's
on
what
oil
I'm talking
tankers.
About. Right.
And UK has added 18 more. So that is something which is moving in parallel and will have no bearing on the ceasefire discussions.
So there's not much pressure that there's going to be?
No.
Okay.
I mean, this is too small. I mean, it is important from Russia's perspective, but at the same time, it is not material to affect the ceasefire. But then Zelensky feels that Russia is likely to come up with some unreasonable demands, which may affect the ceasefire or delay it, so that even if that were to happen, then Russia would be able to negotiate from a position of strength.
Indeed. So the US says that this is a European issue. Now, Europe is trying to get as strong as it can. We can see that Germany is going to be increasing its investment in defense, and it says that it's going to be the strongest army in Europe. The European countries are getting together to increase their defense budgets. Do you think this is deterring Russia in any way, medium term to long term?
Not really. Russia's main concern now is there's sanctions and the embargo, which affects its economically to develop economically. So that is Russia's primary concern. And Trump using a statement today saying he likes to use adjectives. So he says after the ceasefire, he said that ceasefire talks would commence immediately, but that may not happen. President Trump always preempts things, so it doesn't really work out that way. And he said that there will be enormous quote-unquote trade with both Ukraine and Russia. So one thing about President Trump, he's opening up several fronts on trying to bring about peace. So his intention is noble in that sense, and he wants trade to take the upper hand instead of conflict. So that again, you have to give that.
So this is his art of the deal, as he says, and he keeps saying he makes deals. And he also, in our particular story also, he said that, he wouldn't be talking to the public if he didn't think that Russia is quite serious about peace at this kind of point of time. But behind the scenes, people are not too sure whether Russia is, in a position to negotiate. So if it's economics at the end of the day, and these sanctions continue to come from the West, the US is not increasing any sanctions, is that a sign that perhaps, Russia will be willing to come to the negotiating table?
See, let's make no mistake. Russia is going to come to the negotiating table at a time of its choosing. You cannot dictate Russia to come to the table. When Zelensky says that I'm not going to vacate or call back my troops from the eastern part of Ukraine, which is where Russia has partial control, that could be one of the conditions of Russia, that look, you get back to position on such and such date, and that's how we do it. So in fact, this weekend, if you see, there was major conflict which happened. In fact, there were several drone attacks on Ukraine, and Ukraine also claims that on 76 points, I mean, there were attacks and there was 1,000 Russian casualties. So we don't know how far these are true, but these do not augur very well for the ceasefire talks. So let's wait and see.
So, I mean, let's look at the big picture then. Has Russia achieved its objectives? Quite often it says that it has. But, there are some larger objectives. Does it want to, continue to have that divide in Europe? Let's say the Cold War period, where there was an Eastern Europe and the Western Europe. Is it trying to do that? I mean, these are the kind of concerns that maybe, people are thinking about. Is Russia, you said they will come to the negotiating at a time of their choosing. Is that the time of their choosing?
Well, you see, in diplomacy, it is not always that action, but the intent, demonstration of intent is equally important. And by their invasion of Ukraine, Russia has conveyed a very strong message to the West that you cannot take me casually. What was the, let's see, what was the issue, the immediate issue? The expansion of NATO, which was coming to Russia's doorstep, and which it had zero tolerance, and it did give enough chance, but nobody expected this to happen. And then there was this candy which was shown to Ukraine that, look, you will be part of NATO. So Ukraine was also hoping that that would happen, which eventually didn't. So now West also realizes that there are red lines which it cannot cross. So Russia has now very strongly conveyed that message to the West.
Now, talking about NATO, I mean, you've served in Turkey, and Turkey, of course, is a member of NATO, not quite, in India's good books at the moment. But the point is that Turkey seems to have taken a stance which seems to be, again, I mean, different from the rest of NATO, isn't it? In this particular case as well.
That's right. Turkey sometimes moves in a tangent.
Right.
So I feel that.
And they were trying to have the peace talks in Istanbul of all places.
Yes. Turkey is very keen for that it should mediate the talks, because they're an important stakeholder. There's so much of Black Sea. I mean, the trade, and there's a lot of Soviet Russian fleet that moves there, Black Sea, Bosphorus. So that is why Turkey is an important player. But having said that, there is a deep distrust of Turkey both from Russia as well as Ukraine. Once it had tried to negotiate and mediate, and immediately then the message that Ukraine got that it was probably speaking the language of the Russians, and Russians weren't very sure what was happening. And the very next day after these talks, Turkey provided drones to Ukraine. It's sold on commercial terms. So there is a distrust of Turkey.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Ambassador Sanjay Panda. Thank you for expanding this story for us. Now, let's give you some other stories making news in India. The Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh, Mohan Yadav, chaired a special cabinet meeting at the historic Rajwada Palace in Indore, and this is to mark the 300th birth anniversary of Devi Ahilya Bhai Holkar. On this occasion, in fact, the Chief Minister approved Rahveer scheme and other key projects for the development of the state. The Union Minister of State for Road Transport and Highways, Harsh Malhotra, laid the foundation stone of 5 vehicular underpasses in Uttar Pradesh. Now, these vehicular underpasses are an important step towards decongestion and also reducing road casualties. They are being developed at an estimated cost of 111 crore rupees and are scheduled to be completed by the end of 2026. The Union Minister of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution, Prahalad Joshi, launched 3 major digital initiatives: the Depot Darpan portal and the digital platforms Anna Mitra and Anna Sahayata. Well, these initiatives are in fact aimed at transforming India's public distribution system. Still to come here on DD India NewsHour. The schedule of the Indian Premier League, the playoffs have been announced. The final will be in Ahmedabad on June 3. Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. when supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Mark Lynn. Now, member states of the World Health Organization formally adopted by consensus the world's first pandemic agreement. The treaty aims to make the world safer from future pandemics.
After 3 years of staunch negotiations, the world's first pandemic agreement was formally adopted on Tuesday by member states of the World Health Assembly in Geneva. The treaty comes in response to the devastating impact from the COVID-19 pandemic, driven by aim to make the world safer from and more equitable in response to future pandemics and more equitable access to vaccines and treatments.
Today, you have sent a loud message that multilateralism not only works, but is the only way to find shared solutions to shared threats. You have made the world a safer place. With this agreement, we are better prepared for a pandemic than any generation in history.
The process witnessed 124 votes in favor, 0 objections and 11 absence. Here's a look at the key points of the agreement. Countries must take progressive steps to strengthen their pandemic prevention and surveillance capacities. Subject to resources, countries are called on to develop, reinforce, and implement pandemic prevention plans. The agreement calls for countries to adopt measures to ensure equitable distribution and global production of pandemic-related health products. Agreement aims to promote technology and knowledge transfers to recognize regional or global centers coordinated by the WHO. Pathogen access and benefit sharing system has been proposed. In an attempt to smooth out the flaws exposed by COVID-19, a global supply chain and logistic network will also be set up for timely and affordable access to pandemic-related health products. Countries now have until May 2026 to trash out the details of the agreement's pathogen access and benefit sharing mechanisms. Addressing the 78th World Health Assembly, Prime Minister Narendra Modi stressed that the future of a healthy world depends on integrated vision and collaboration.
The health of the world depends on how well we care for the most vulnerable. The global south is particularly impacted by health challenges. India's approach offers replicable, scalable, and sustainable models. We would be happy to share our learnings and best practices with the world, especially the global south.
Prime Minister added that inclusion is at the heart of India's health reforms and technology is an important catalyst to improve health outcomes.
Inclusion is at the core of India's health reforms. We run Ayushman Bharat, the world's largest health insurance scheme. It covers 580 million people and provides free treatment. This program was recently extended to cover all Indians above the age of 70 years.
With this historic treaty in place, the goal is clear. Fight future pandemics with greater preparedness and cooperation that is in sync with India's shared commitment on building a healthy planet, leaving no one behind. With agency inputs, Tripti Tripathi for DD India.
The year 2026 will be marked as a dual year between India and Spain to celebrate culture, tourism and advancements in artificial intelligence. A new chapter unfolds in film cooperation between India and Spain, fostering creativity and cultural exchange at the Bharat Pavilion at the Cannes Film Festival.
As India and Spain turn new page into their cinematic collaborations, we have with us Camilo Basquez. He's the Ministry of Culture from Spain. So welcome to Bharat Pavilion. How was your experience and session here at the Bharat Pavilion?
It has been great. For us, for Spain, India is one of the strategical countries. And we are working very strongly with the Indian authorities to develop an important activities with a program for the next year. in next year, 2026. That will be the dual year India-Spain, and we are going to reinforce the excellent relationship between India and Spain.
India and Spain share long ties with each other, and cultural is an important aspect of both the countries' historic relationship. We hear at the film festival there's a collaboration, there are co-productions, there's a push from Indian government for more co-productions. That's what we are aiming for. How was your experience in that, pushing for more co-productions and working together?
Yeah. The co-productions is one of the key elements for that good relationship on cinematography affairs, in cinematography and visual affairs. We have a bilateral agreement of 2012, but we would like to refresh and to update because we will have the best position for the development of co-production between India and Spain. For our responsibility is to make a great legal framework for the development of co-production projects, co-production initiatives between India and Spain.
So we are promoting how more and more filmmakers should come to India, shoot in India, work with Indian companies. How open you are for that, and what do you think? We have previous collaborations, looking at the previous collaborations, how promising that looks?
Yeah, as I said, the relationship with India for us is very, very special. India is one of the key countries of the world. We will have the best relations with India in all elements, but even in the audiovisual and cinematography affairs.
Thank you so much for talking to us. So really, two countries are opening door. We are open for more co-productions, exchanging ideas, exchanging culture, cinema, and lot more, many more areas where two countries can definitely co-produce and collaborate. With camera person Sumit, this is Jaishankar from DD India from Cannes.
You're watching DD India. Let's get you the sports news now. And the Indian Cricket Board has announced that the Indian Premier League Qualifier 2 and final will take place in the western city of Ahmedabad. This will happen on June 1 and 3 respectively. And New Chandigarh will stage Qualifier 1 on May 29 and the Eliminator on May 30. The new venues for the playoffs were decided by the IPL Governing Council, keeping in mind the weather conditions and other parameters. Furthermore, with an eye on the monsoon season, the BCCI has also decided to shift the May 23 fixture between Royal Challengers Bengaluru and Sunrisers Hyderabad from Bengaluru to Lucknow. The tournament resumed on May 17 after a brief suspension due to conflict between India and Pakistan. The shooter Adrian Karmakar has opened India's medal account at the ISSF Junior World Cup in Seoul City of Germany, with a silver medal in the men's 50-meter rifle prone event on Tuesday. Making his debut, his World Cup debut, the 20-year-old Indian, he secured 626.7 points. He missed the goal by just 0.3 points, and that went to Sweden's Jesper Johansson. The United States' Griffin Lake claimed the bronze medal. The tournament began on Monday and it runs till May 26. It features over 600 athletes from 59 countries competing in 17 medal events. India has sent a 57-member contingent, and this is led by the Paris 2024 Olympian Raisa Dillon, and this team is participating in all events. India's Manika Batra has bowed out of the World Table Tennis Championship finals. She lost to Gae Hyun Park of the Republic of Korea in Doha on Tuesday. Batra lost 4-0 in fact. Dia Chitale also lost her women's singles match 1-4 to Cheng Yi-ching of Chinese Taipei, exiting the championships. So in the men's singles, Manav Thakur put up a good fight but eventually lost and exited the tournament after being beaten by Japan's Tomokazu Harimoto. And with the loss of Batra, Chitale and Thakur, India's singles campaign at this event has come to an end. Some badminton news. India's shuttler Kidambi Srikanth has secured a spot in the main draw of the Malaysia Masters on Tuesday. Srikanth, who is making a comeback, defeated the Chinese Taipei's Huang Yu Kai 9-21, 21-12, 21-6 in the second qualifying match. The 2021 World Championship silver medalist had beaten another Taipei player, Kwa Kwan Lin, in the first round. The former world number 1 will now face a tough opponent, Lu Guangzhou of China, in the main draw on Wednesday. The two-time Olympic medalist, PV Sindhu, will also begin her campaign against the Japanese Natsuki Naidaira. This is going to happen on Wednesday. Sindhu skipped the Taipei Open and the Thailand Open earlier this month. A quarter-final finish at the India Open in January remains her best finish this year. Indian hockey is celebrating 100 glorious years. To mark the occasion, Hockey India has taken a big step for player welfare by signing a memorandum of understanding with Amity University for a special education scholarship program. Now, this scholarship will benefit hockey players at the state, national and international levels. The event was attended by Hockey India Secretary General Bholanath Singh. Also present were Amity University Online Chairman Ajit Chauhan, the Indian women's hockey team captain Salima Tete and the defender Jyoti. Well, that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour. Share your thoughts with us on the news of the day. And for those of you on the go, get the latest news and updates on the DD India mobile app. It's available on Android and iOS. You can scan the QR code and download it now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. My name is Mark Lin. Thank you for being with us here on DD India News Hour. Namaskar.